Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. I'm TCaptainX. The Renetti SMG was finally nerfed, which means we once again have a pretty open close range meta in Warzone Season 3. So the first part of the video, we're going to be comparing the strengths and weaknesses of the top 5 SMGs to be using for Rebirth Island or just Warzone in general, because especially at the top 3, you can make a case any of these are the #1 SMG. It really just kind of depends on what you prefer, and the SMG meta is just in a really good spot right now. So to compare the different stats, we're going to be utilizing our website ggs.ai, which I would encourage you guys to check out yourself as well if you want to take a deep dive and compare different loadouts that we have ranked by an AI algorithm that we've created. If we go to the weapons page and then we sort by close range, SMGs, and we're going to include meta and A tier ranked guns. So this is going to spit out our rankings for our SMGs, and I think this is pretty dang accurate in terms of like my own opinion as well. If you click the drop down, it's going to open up and show more builds as well for each of these. Now, some of these builds are locked behind our premium iridescent subscription, which is $9 a month. I just want to be transparent and explain that we are not even breaking even right now with the money involved just to maintain the website and servers, let alone the thousands of hours we have into developing this. So that is why the site is not 100% free. But if you want to support us and help us bring you guys a bunch more super cool features that we have planned, I'd encourage you to try and check out GG's Iridescent. Another thing you can do as well with Iridescent is you can change the algorithm based on your play style. So I'm going to leave it on balance for this video, but if I switch it to aggressive, the WSP9 actually becomes the #1 ranked SMG, and that is because the build we have for it has such amazing movement speed. There's also casual and tactical. So in casual, Striker 9 ranks #1, tactical WSP9 ranks #1, and tactical is more like focused on better recoil control, and casual is casual. It's someone who is, doesn't play the game a ton. They jump on and they just want to be able to do whatever and kind of just do well with anything. When we open it up here, you can hit compare details and we can add these guns here. So I've got a build for the HRM, the WSP9, Striker 9, and Striker. I'm going to skip the Ram 9 and I'm actually putting in a build in for the WSP Swarm at my #5. The reason for that is the Ram 9 after the nerf, it's still okay, but it's just all the other SMGs do better in every category. So I don't think it's worth really including. I wanted to really quickly explain why I'm not including a few SMGs though. So first, I've got the HRM 9 in green, which is one of the best SMGs still, just as a baseline. The Ram 9 in blue here, you can see after its nerf has a much slower time to kill. It used to be much faster, like a 0.58. Now it's a 0.65. You can still get a faster TTK pretty easily with it if you mix in headshots, but it's just not going to be as consistent. The AMR 9 got murdered in the Season 3 update. It used to be the fastest TTK SMG. Now it is one of the slowest. The Renetti did get nerfed, thank God. It's still pretty decent. Its time to kill is only just slower than the HRM. It used to be way faster though. So I think it's a great pistol if you want to run a pistol for some reason, but I don't think it's worth running over other SMGs. And then finally, I wanted to point out the FJX Horus. Close range TTK, right on par with the HRM, but then the range really falls off. It also has a lot of recoil, not a lot of good damage per mag. The only good thing about the FJX is really good mobility, but the WSP9 build I'm going to show you guys is way better. All right, so let's actually get into my top 5 SMGs here, and let's start here with the fastest one out of all of these. I'm going to hide a few, is actually the WSP Swarm, and WSP9 have essentially the fastest TTKs up close. The Swarm, if you build it the right way, you can have this TTK up to 10 meters, but then it's horrible after 10 meters. It's really good in really close range situations, and you can put that 100 round mag on it. So that's why the Swarm I still think is very viable on Rebirth Island, but it just struggles at mid range. Now the Striker, the regular Striker 45 in purple, I think is super underrated. I would rank this at #4. Its time to kill is just okay all around, but it has ultra low recoil, solid range. So if you struggle with recoil control, the Striker 45 is one of the best SMGs to use. Then there's the Striker 9 in orange, which I'm ranking at #3, although this is kind of my personal favorite. Like I said, the top 3 I think are essentially tied with one another. And let me bring in my top 3 TTKs here. So the orange line is the Striker, has a little bit better range than the HRM 9, and then it kind of follows the same. At very long ranges, it is better, but you're not really going to use an SMG past about 25 meters. WSP9 though is a faster time to kill and has way better range, all the way up until 17 meters until that range drop off. But the WSP9 has that open bolt delay. So if we change this from TTK on paper to expected TTK, let me hide the Striker and the WSP Swarm. Now the WSP9 in blue, the time to kill gets much slower. And the reason for that is because we're factoring in that 50 millisecond open bolt delay. So an open bolt delay is when you pull the trigger, there's a 50 millisecond delay until those bullets start to come out. So when you use the WSP9, it's important that you want to try to like pre-fire as much as possible, because if you do get caught where you're like running straight at someone and you start shooting at the exact same time, in those situations that can kind of burn you. And then finally, the HRM9 is in red. It did not receive any damage nerfs in season 3. It is still a phenomenal SMG. Its range got nerfed slightly. I think it was season 2 reloaded, and that's where the Striker 9 is a tad better, and the WSP 9 is better as well for range, but still HRM is just a phenomenal SMG all around. Now we can also switch this over to the DPM chart, which is damage per mag, and this is where the WSP Swarm really excels because it has that 100 round mag. The Swarm, I mean, you can easily take out an entire team without reloading. The HRM9 and Striker 9 a little bit lower in the damage per mag category. You can definitely take out 2 people without reloading, maybe 3 if you're really accurate, but the WSP 9 and the Striker have really good DPMs and are going to do better in like trios and quads just because of those a little bit slower shooting guns they are. If we scroll down a little bit, the weighted expected time to kill is a great stat that essentially factors in all of the stats for a gun: the damage, the range, the recoil, the accuracy, and it says what's the time to kill that you can expect to get in most situations. And the HRM9 does come out on top, Striker 9 close behind. We have the WSP 9, then Striker, and then WSP Swarm, which is pretty much exactly how I have these guns ranked in order, basically. You can also look at a few of their stats here, like adding in Sprintifire, so that pretty much keeps everything the same as well, but this is important when, again, if you're running, you kind of sprint to pull that gun down. This is the weighted damage output, which again is basically just like the damage per mag. The WSP Swarm says you can get up to 5 downs in one magazine, but WSP 9 and Striker up to 4, maybe 3 for the HRM9 and Striker 9, assuming that you're relatively accurate. Expected accuracies, basically it looks at how much recoil a gun has, so the more accurate, the less recoil. This is where I think the Striker is super underrated, especially as like a sniper support, because it is so low recoil. HRM has great recoil as well. Striker 9 is solid. This WSP 9 build that I'm showing here is a max mobility build, so that's why it ranks lower, but with other builds, the WSP 9 tends to be one of the highest ranking ones. So I'm going to show you guys different builds once we get to the loadout part. So if we scroll down here, we're going to look at even more stats here. It of course is going to show us the overall ranking along with our attachments here. If we continue to scroll down here, a few things I want to point out here. The recoil rating. So this WSP 9 build ranks very badly for recoil, but the other build I'm going to show you guys would rank much higher. I think it's like a 4 or 5, but this is a no stock build, but that's why the mobility is so good on it. Also has great handling as well. You're going to see a lot of the green obviously is where these guns excel, and the red is where they struggle. Overall, a lot of these guns are kind of similar in these areas, and I won't spend too much time here, and we'll go ahead and jump into the loadouts now. All right, so coming in at number 5 is that WSP Swarm. Again, that big 100 round mag, very good close range time to kill. It's very important that we extend the range on this. So the WSP Reckless Barrel gives us a bunch of range and also helps our recoil control. Then the high grain rounds also extends that range. Again, that after that range drop off, the time to kill sucks, so it's important that we extend that. Zem compensated flash hider is kind of a must for the recoil control, because otherwise this gun is pretty wobbly. And this is generally one of the best muzzles to use on all of your SMGs because it helps a lot with your recoil control, but more importantly, it shortens your radar pings. So you're still going to ping on the minimap, but very, very shortly. So people are less likely to be able to actually see you ping on the minimap with it. That huge 100 round drum, if you're not playing trios or quads, you could definitely just go with like the 50 instead though. And then the Fortress heavy stock, because again, we really need some recoil control on this gun. The iron sights, you kind of have to use them, I think, for this build, because I just don't think it's worth giving up any of these attachments. If you really wanted to though, I'd probably give up high grain for an optic. Coming in at number 4, we have the Striker with the Striker 45. Again, this is a super low recoil, easy to use build, great for sniper support as well. I don't think you need to use the Zem on this one with how low the recoil is, so I just go with the sonic suppressor. That way we get more range and we also stay suppressed. For the underbarrel, for a lot of these, I have switched from the DR6 hand stop because this attachment specifically got nerfed, and I'm now preferring to run the XRK Edge. This helps more with our mobility compared to the DR6 and the difference in handling. Basically, the DR6 gives you ever so slightly better ADS and Sprintifire, but it's like 3 milliseconds difference. It's something you're just not going to notice. So I think the XRK Edge is generally the better attachment now. 48 round mag, you could go 60 if you want, but the 48 is plenty because of this is a little bit slower shooting gun. To add to that recoil control, the Lockman Recon series stock. And then finally, I am going to go with an optic on this one, the MK.3. Iron sights are not too bad at all though, so if you don't mind them, you could definitely go high grain for more range, or you could go with a laser for better mobility as well. Now, just in case you want to run like a max mobility build, you could absolutely switch up and run this no stock build here with these attachments. This build is a lot of fun. It's one of the few guns you can run no stock and kind of get away with it on it. Coming in at number 3, which again, these top 3, it's literally a toss-up on which one is your number one. This one's actually probably my personal favorite, and this is the Striker 9. So this is kind of like a little bit more like balance slash mobility build. Zem compensated flash hider for that recoil control. Again, the XRK Edge hand stop for that better movement speed. Definitely want to go with a 50-round drum. The Sock and ZX grip is going to help with our recoil control with basically no penalties. And then the Lockman light stock, because this one is going to give us some nice movement with only a tiny amount of penalty to our recoil kick. I have tried running the no stock on this, and it is a ton of fun, but it's pretty wobbly at range. So definitely can go no stock if you're feeling a little crazy, but I think this MK2 light stock is just going to be more versatile overall. Now, if you don't like the iron sights on this, I would probably say just take off the rear grip and put on a 1X optic. One of my new favorite 1X optics is actually the Quarters Classic one here. It's kind of like a Cold War optic if you played Black Ops Cold War at all. Go into the firing range here. It kind of looks like the Microflex from Cold War, and it's just really clean. You could of course use like a Jack glassless optic or really anything else that you prefer here. You can also run the Striker 9 as a sniper support here, and this is my recommended build for that. Again, this build has super low recoil, but still good mobility that you can run around with and break cameras on Rebirth Island. I've really liked to use this build paired with the Moors sniper. Coming in at number 2, if you want a insane movement mobility build, this WSP9 is so much fun. So of course that no stock gives us insane movement speed. The Marauder grip is going to help our recoil control to counter that no stock. 40-round mag. I don't think you need to go with the 50 on this one. I think the 40 is plenty because it's a slower shooting gun, and we don't want to hurt our movement speed anymore. Again, XRK Edge hand stop is my go-to underbarrel for movement, and then that Zem compensated flash hider for the recoil control. Now, one thing I want to point out is this bundle gives you, it's honestly kind of pay to win. It gives you like invisible iron sights, and it's nice because you can just see through them better essentially. This is the fossilized blueprint. It is something you can buy in the store. I have it paired with the Ghoulie camo, which does look really cool. You cannot unlock that camo anymore though. Now, if you want more of just a balanced build, an SMG that kind of does it all, that has great range but still has very good mobility, switch it up to this one. So we're going to take off the stock and rear grip attachments. We're going to add a sight back on, assuming you don't like the iron sights, and then we're going to add the Hiss short light barrel. The reason for this is very small penalty to recoil, but some really good movement buffs as well that make it handles better up close. And this build is phenomenal. If you don't mind the iron sights, totally could take off the optic for either the Classics factory stock, or again, probably just throw on that Marauder rear grip to get more recoil control. And one more final option build. This is the sniper support build that I would run for the WSP9. Has amazing range, and the recoil is not bad at all, and still pretty good mobility. And then finally, what I'm going to overall rank number 1, but again, I'm telling you, you guys need to try the WSP9 and Striker 9. I think they are just as equally good as this HRM9. This is my slightly updated HRM9 build. The only thing I really changed was I went to the XRK Edge underbarrel instead of the DR6. Now, a lot of you guys are probably going to prefer to run the Zem instead of the Sonic. Personally, I like to just run the Sonic for the stay suppressed and that little bit extra range, but the Zem helps a ton with recoil control. I know a lot of people probably ask, why don't you run high grain? And I just don't think high grain is worth it instead of running the Thorn barrel. I think the movement buffs that the Thorn barrel gives you and the hipfire buffs, hipfire I think is super underrated in this game. I just like this build a lot more. Now, if you want to run this as a little bit more of the sniper support or just lower recoil, more range, switch out that Thorn barrel for the Princeps long barrel. Going to give you a lot more range, and this one also gives you a super clean iron sight, which is basically just like the Growl. And if that recoil is too much, again, switch the Sonic to the Zem. You could also switch the underbarrel for something like the F-Tac angled, and this will make the recoil way smoother, and it kind of gets rid of that initial kick that it has. All right, guys, so that is going to wrap things up. I hope you found the video helpful. If you need the long range meta, I posted that video like yesterday, so I'm going to link it probably here or at the end of the video or somewhere like that. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more content. Maybe come check out a stream here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.